Hello, and welcome to your lesson on the VLOOKUP function. This feature is similar to the lookup function, but uses a different method to locate your information. This feature is only capable of searching to the right of the common identifier. This feature can return an exact or a close match and supports a wildcard. The formula on your screen is an example of the VLOOKUP formula. Let's break it down into manageable pieces. So number one, VLOOKUP is your opening formula. Number two, A2 is your common identifier. Number three, this is your array or your search area. The first cell in your array always represents your common identifier. In this case, it will be C3. Number four references column 6, tells Excel to go to column 6 of the array and return the value in this cell. And number 5 is represented by false, which tells Excel we want to return an exact match. If a close match was acceptable, we can indicate true in this case. Okay, so now that you have a general idea, let's dive into the lesson to get some hands-on clarity. Okay, so here we are on our spreadsheet. And before we get started, I would like to give you a bit of information about the formula. If you look above my categories, you'll see numbers. This represents the location of these categories on the list tab. And the reason I have marked these, because the VLOOKUP executes its command by moving to the right of the common identifier. So these numbers is needed to tell Excel which column to go to. So number 1 will always be your common identifier. So let's go ahead and look at the list tab. So number 7 will be the unit sold. So if I select the common identifier and I go to the unit sold, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So number 7 is represented by the unit sold. 8 is the unit price, 9 is the unit cost, 10, 11, and 12 is the cost, revenue, and the profit. So let's begin by placing our mouse inside of cell B3. Let's go ahead and say equal in VLOOKUP. Let's place an opening parenthesis and select the common identifier. Next, let's go ahead and place a comma. And now we want to go ahead and select the array. And we're going to use number 7 to represent the column of the value that we want returned. So let's go to the list tab. Let's begin by selecting cell C2. Let's scroll all the way down. And let's go ahead and select all of our content. Now remember, the common identifier is number 1. So let's go ahead and place a comma. Let's add the number 7 because that's where our value resides. Let's place another comma and say false because we're telling Excel we want an exact match. Let's place a closing parenthesis. And the units sold should be 3,482. Let's select enter and see if we get the correct answer. Okay, so this looks good. Let's go ahead and perform the same exercise on costs. Then I'll show you how to update your information by simply changing the column number. But for demonstration purposes, I would like to do one more. So let's place our mouse inside of cell C3 and type equal in VLOOKUP. Let's place an opening parenthesis and select our common identifier. Let's place a comma and head over to the list tab. Next, we're going to go ahead and select cell C2, drag it all the way down and all the way across until all of our information is selected. Okay, that's our array. Let's go ahead and place a comma. This time we're going to go ahead and say number 10. Let's place another comma and say false. Let's do a closing parenthesis and say enter. Okay, and Excel has correctly returned $124,795. So next we're going to copy and paste this information over. But before we do that, we need to make sure that our cells are absolute so the formula does not change when we move the formula over. Let's select cell C3. Let's go ahead and place our cursor in front of C2. Let's say function and hit the F4 key. And as you can see, it now has a $sign in front of the C and a $sign in front of the 2. Now this is notifying Excel. We do not want this reference to change. Okay, let's do the same for N101. Let's place the cursor in front of the N. Let's go ahead and hold the function key down and click F4. Now the array of C2 through N101 will not change when I copy my formula over. Okay, so let's go ahead and select cell C3. Let's say copy. Select cells D3 and E3. Let's do a right click and say paste. Now let's go ahead to cell D3. Let's change the B3 to an A3. And let's change the number 10 to an 11. And this should return your revenue costs. Okay, let's do the same for cell E3. Let's change the C3 to an A3 because we do not want our common identifier to change. Now let's go ahead and change the 10 to a 12 and this will return our profit. Let's go ahead and click enter. Alright, let's go ahead and check our information. Let's go to the list tab. And as you can see, the cost, the revenue, and the profit aligns with what we have pulled into our Finance Lookup tab. Okay. Now from here, we're going to simply do an autofill and then we'll wrap the lesson up. Okay, so let's select cell B3 to E3. Let's hover to get our black cross. So let's go ahead and double click or drag to complete our autofill. I'm going to do a double click. And as you can see, my information has filled up. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the lesson up. I hope you found this information helpful and I will see you on the next video. Congratulations on completing another video and on your commitment to learning this program. I hope that you are getting the most out of our level up lessons and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.